and him have this conversation, and it's like, at the holidays is probably the best time to reconcile with somebody because it's all about, family and giving. And that's the message of the movie, right? Like, that's the important stuff. But go ahead. We got to go to the part where he just abuses two grown men.
Giggity. You do bring up a great point. There is a ton of heart in these movies, and it really also does a great job of like hammering home like just Christmas.
Welcome. That's an old Jeopardy Saturday Night Live reference. Welcome back to the Movie Dads podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Howie.
I'm Kyle.
That is Kyle. Kyle, we're back for episode number 69. Giggity. Of the Movie Dads podcast. Double feature this week for our Christmas extravaganza. The holiday classics, Home Alone and Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, for our new segment, Nostalgia Goggles. I got my nostalgia goggles right here.
There they are.
Yeah.
Look at us in the Christmas spirit. I love it.
Ho, ho, ho. Where my hoes at?
Outstanding.
I can't record with these on the entire time. It's just too much.
I can't remember. Did you last year? You did last year.
I took them off
pretty quick.
I might throw them back on later for some. I don't know, just because I want to.
The Christmas when we start singing all of the songs from the Home Alone movies.
Yeah, I'm excited. But hey, if you're watching this on YouTube, please click the like and subscribe. Make sure you click the bell to get notifications on when new episodes come out, which is on Wednesday mornings. If you're not watching us on YouTube, please check us out on one of many podcast networks such as Apple, Spotify, Audible, iHeartRadio, among many others. You can also see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. But we're Movie Dads. We've got movie kids. Kyle Reagan was in the junior high varsity wrestling district tournament on Saturday. We literally spent the majority of our day watching girls wrestling from like 7:30 a.m. till 1:30 p.m. And then immediately following that, Des had basketball. So it was all day. It was go, go, go. She did good. She had a good day. I mean, she wasn't happy with the results. She didn't medal, but overall she had some wins. She had some losses. It's okay. She finished the season 500. I was pretty proud of her, considering the improvement she made last year to this year. She got to be varsity in the district tournament, so that was good. That was a real positive.
I remember us we were on the pod last year when she started, right? I remember like it was like she's trying out wrestling. That's 2 seasons down.
Yeah, that's good. Pretty cool. Yeah, so she's kind of going back and forth about whether she's going to do high school wrestling or not. I kind of hope she does because she's getting better. She's really strong. She does a really good job. She's got to work on her technique more, but strength wise, I think she's good. So she'll be good there. Des had basketball. It was a good, hard-fought battle. They're not getting blown out 40 and 50 to nothing anymore. They're actually really good competitive games. This one came down to the wire. Des actually sank. He actually had a shooting foul on him in the last like 5 minutes of the game. And they don't really call shooting fouls in third grade basketball. They only called, I think this was only the third one I've seen called all season. And they called it on him. And these kids can't hit free throws to save their lives. Like these kids are
like
small,
400 miles away, right?
Yeah, like it's like they're layups. That's where all the shots are taken, like layup range. So Des had 2 free throws, and I'm like, oh shit. Anyway, but he made both. I was like, whoa, yeah, that's awesome. He sank both free throws, which I've never seen another kid make a single one. So that was good. They ended up losing at the last second, and they lost by 3, but it was a good game. 1 game left this weekend, and then sports are done for the winter. Until after the holidays, and then basketball starts back up in late January again for Des. So that'll be good. But him and I spent the day together Sunday, like running errands and doing stuff around the house. And him and I were in the car, and he just said, he's like, Dad, what's your favorite holiday? And I'm like, I always kind of go back and forth. I'm like, I always kind of say 4th of July because it's my birthday, and it's like, it's kind of neat, I go, boy, Des, it's really hard to not be Christmas. And he goes, I just love Christmas so much because it's so magical and we get to give people presents and like be so happy with your family and stuff. And I was like, damn, kid, you get it. You know, like you get what Christmas is all about. And then I think I text you too. He asked if he could stay home. No, maybe I text Abby, but Monday morning, he's like, I work from home on Mondays usually. And he's like, can I stay home with you? And can we just watch Christmas movies all day? And I was like, I want to say yes so much. But as a responsible father, I can't. So sorry, kid, you have to go to school. But yeah, it was cute.
Awesome.
It was awesome.
Nice. Love that. I love that for you because Christmas season should be that. And
Yeah.
I, obviously, as you know, I'm a Christmas nerd. So it's always been my fucking nerdy ass thing. And my kids have followed suit. And I feel like, kind of like what you just said, this year seems to be the year that like we're clicking on all cylinders. Like Grayson and Parker both are just like loving the Christmas time. And now it used to be me basically telling them like, no, we have to watch a Christmas movie. Like we have to put something on Christmassy during this time of year. And now like I'll walk up and like Parker will be the one that's like saying that, like, we have to put on a Christmas movie. Like we can't watch normal stuff. It's got to be Christmassy.
Heck yeah.
Like, you guys get it. So, and this weekend was interesting. So Parker had probably like the crazy busiest, best day of his life. At least he called it the best day of his life multiple times on Sunday. But he had soccer and then his birthday party all in one day.
Awesome.
And at the game, he kind of was just like messing around at one point, ended up like closing his eyes and was just like kind of wandering around. And Stephanie and I are like yelling at him, like, Parker, open your eyes, like, and he was just hearing us, purposefully ignoring us, walking around with his eyes closed. And then like for whatever reason his eyes opened, ball was right in front of him, took it downfield and drilled a goal. It was like,
oh, that's awesome.
It was super, super cool just because he's scored a couple of times throughout the year. So that was good. And then we went straight to, he had his birthday at Chuck E. Cheese, which I don't know if you've been there in a while, but it has definitely changed since my childhood. But he had a bunch of kids from his class at daycare come, and Parker is like my popular child when it comes to like at school. Like when I pick him up, every single kid from his class like runs up screaming his name and make sure they give him a hug to leave.
Sure.
And so when we went to this birthday party, it was essentially the same thing. Just like, he has 2 girlfriends, by the way. His words, not mine.
Right.
My wife hates it when he says it. But they were there, like running around with him, just freaking having a blast, getting in trouble. They sprinted around Chuck E. Cheese for 2 hours. And I got to use the free card to play games the whole time. So it was great.
Oh yeah.
Ton of fun. And then we're in elf season right now. Whisper that so that no one hears. But I don't know if you guys do the elf in your house, but that's not something we did when, I don't even know if it was around when I was a kid, but like,
it wasn't
obviously
when I was a kid at all. So
yeah, like now it's like the cool thing. So it's so funny doing the elf because it's either one, I'm going to remember and I'll do something super cool, like hang a string of Christmas lights from the top of the Christmas tree all the way into the kitchen and he's like zip lining down. Or usually I'll do a big Spider-Man diorama of Spider-Man swinging and Green Goblin. They're all hanging from strings from the ceiling. Or most of the time I forget and my wife will wake up at like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. because my kids will get up at 5 or 6 and
throw it in the tree.
We literally will sprint downstairs. Oftentimes it's we wake up when we know the kids wake up and then we're like, we did it again. And then we run and like she's running interference and exactly that. Like I'll just grab them and the amount of times I've thrown them in the tree is.
You ever gotten caught?
Astronomical. No, not yet.
Oh. Okay.
I think Grayson's Grayson's at the point now where he's questioning. I think he knows that he's questioning things. Obviously, I think kids at school tell him that Santa's not real and stuff, but like he's trying and he wants to, so he's kind of like playing oblivious.
There's
But
a
he does
lot of
ask
that
questions.
going around in third grade. So
Yeah.
and I think third grade, I always said this is kind of how Abby and I have approached it. Like, if they ask, I'm not gonna lie.
Mhm.
Like if it's like, Dad, I really want to know, then I'm not gonna lie. And that's how it was with Reagan, because I remember when she asked me, and I was like, "Stay here. I need to get your mother." And it was like she asked, and I'm like, I'm gonna talk to her, and Abby's like, "Oh my God, my baby, it's over," blah blah blah, and all that. And
Dude,
so I think Des has said twice so far this month. He's made comments, and I'm like, oh shit, this might be it. Might be the last one, and that's okay. I think I was 7 or 8. I think that's probably the normal age, right? Like 8, 9, 10. That's probably it.
Yeah.
Like you don't want
Sure.
kids being freaking junior high. That's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it. We've gotten caught with the elf a couple times too over the years. Like, Lucy didn't move, and it's like, oh, she must have been tired.
Okay, so that
she must have been tired.
I thought you meant like, did we ever get caught like we were moving it and they walked in?
Oh no.
Multiple times. We have
okay.
Not yet this year, but multiple times where we've forgotten to move it, and the kids will fucking go down there at 5 a.m. and they're like, "No, the elf didn't move. What happened?" Usually, I'm like, "Well, did you guys do something? Did you get in trouble yesterday?
Yeah.
Did you guys do something you were supposed
naughty?
to do?" Yeah, and anytime that happens, I'm like, "Well, that's probably what happened. So go to school, and maybe Elfie will go back and report." And usually that's what happens, but. Or if that happens, I will, like, there's been multiple times in the morning where, like, they will wake, I'll come downstairs, they're here, they know the elf didn't move. They're sitting watching TV, doing whatever video games or whatever crap they do. And I will very nonchalantly move the elf and put it in somewhere, like doing something cool. And then I won't say anything, but then they will just notice it. And so there's been some fun times of fixing some of those mistakes. But it's whatever. Anyways, but yeah, that's what's going on in our house. It's Christmas season. Everyone watching Christmas movies.
Yep.
We're gonna do our traditional Christmas lights in McDonald's in the car on
we
Friday.
Do that too.
So
nice.
Excited for it.
We do the exact same thing. We always go to the like rockin' lights at Werner Park, where you like drive through and the music plays and stuff, and then we go to other houses. But we do the same thing. We get McDonald's. It's perfect.
It's look at us.
I know.
Look at
My
us.
last truck had this huge sweet and sour sauce stain in the back seat. Like whenever we go on road trips and stuff, I'm always like, you can get nuggets, but you ain't getting sauce. And so I think it was last year or the year before, Abby's like, can I get sweet and sour sauce in my nuggets? I think it was last year. And Abby's like, oh, just let him. And we got home and it was all the way up his ass and it was all the way on the seat. And I was like, you never again, never again.
Sweet and sour.
No, that's what happens.
Outstanding. Cool. Well, it sounds like we've all got a lot going on. I feel like, though, it's perfect time to jump into our most excited segment of the pod, our 6 to Midnight. This is the part of the show where we talk about the things that get us up in the morning, what we're excited about, what we're nerding out about, what nerd news is here, what games are we playing, what trailers just dropped. Lots to talk about this week, a lot going on. So much stuff. First off, follow up from last week, we mentioned Skeleton Crew was dropping, which that has dropped, and it is 2 thumbs up. I'm enjoying it.
I love it.
Nothing like the Acolyte. It's not doing anything that's triggering any fans. I haven't seen anything.
No,
but
it feels different, but in a good way.
Very different. And the part that I think, like, I don't really talk spoilers, but like what for me, I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. It's like a galactic suburban neighborhood. Like this is going to be a weird or kind of goofy show.
Yeah.
But there's a reason for all of that as you get out. So essentially, I thought this was going to be more like Stranger Things with a sprinkle of Goonies, and I should have picked up on it from the name of the show, but it's way more it's just a pirate show. It is literally a pirate show. Star Wars. It's Treasure Island and Star Wars is what it is.
Way more Goonies vibe for me than Stranger Things, like the pirates and the looking for treasure and like that straight up. But like the one kid being completely obsessed with the Jedi and stuff, and everybody's like, no, you don't need to dream about being a Jedi. You need to be like an analyst, you loser.
Yeah.
I dug it, man. Those first 2 episodes were great, like absolutely great. I'm ready to I wish I could binge it. Like
there's a third episode waiting for us right when we get off of this. So I like Captain Brutus. I like the I don't know what type of species it is, but the werewolf.
Look up what species it is either. Yeah.
From when we all know there's a werewolf in the cantina in Star Wars: A New Hope, like in the very first movie, and then we've just never really seen him ever since in main canon or shows or movies. So like for them to make him like a centric, I don't know. I'm excited about it. I just saw there's a Star Wars Black Series figure that I'm probably going to pick up if I see it. So.
Shistavanen.
So nowhere near a werewolf. It's a werewolf, guys.
Shistavanen is the species. There you go.
I will say, like the opening scene where basically the freaking pirate ship takes over a ship. It is straight up a pirate movie or show, and it's so cool and fun.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes too, because there's obviously these hints about these. Obviously, it's a group of kids, but there's hints about their home planet might be something pretty cool. So I'm excited to see where it goes. It obviously has a pretty neat kind of tone to it so far. So
it's Treasure Island meets Treasure Planet meets Star Wars. So nice. All right, so Skeleton Crew, what do you got? Let's jump back and forth.
Well, something that you and I didn't talk about, but it premiered today, so I actually got a chance to hop on and watch 2 episodes. And obviously this is a Prime show, so it drops all episodes at once, but Secret Level dropped today.
Oh shoot.
I know. You and I were texting the other day about like this came out, Skeleton Crew came out, Creature Commandos all came out within like 7 days of each other. Boy, what a time to be alive. So we literally got home from Reagan's choir concert tonight, and Des and I are sitting on the couch, and I had like 20 minutes before I had to go pick her up because she was hanging out with her friends right after the show. And so him and I were sitting there, and I was like, it popped up right on Prime Video, and I was like, Des, let's see if we can watch an episode. And they're actually like 10 to 20 minutes long, depending on which one you're watching. So we were able to watch 2, and because they're their own thing, you don't have to watch them in any order, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was telling Des what the show's about. So we watched the Pac-Man one, which is not what I expected and was probably not appropriate for my 8-year-old son.
Oh no. Nice.
It was violent. And then we watched the Dungeons and Dragons episode, which is actually the first episode. And it was awesome. The animation's fantastic. The reviews are kind of mixed for it, but boy, it looks great. And I obviously just watched 2. So I don't know what the tone of the others is going to be, but what they did with Pac-Man was completely crazy, off the wall, wild, not what you would expect. So I'm curious to see what direction they go here, but big time voice talent like Keanu Reeves, Arnold Schwarzenegger. They've even used, I think, Keanu's likeness in one of the episodes, and I don't remember which one that was, but I'm excited to see it. But they're not very long. They're short episodes, so you could get through the whole season in, like 2 hours. So
nice. That's very on brand with the Love, Death, and Robots. So, like I just watched basically in preparation for that show like a week ago. I watched Love Death. Some of the Love, Death, and Robots with
God, the animations
kids. So some
killer
of
though.
them. There's an episode in season 1. I forget what it's called, but it's like these farmers hold their farm with like mechs against like hordes and hordes of aliens in like a cartoony type show.
Oh yeah.
Or
Mhm.
and just like my kids think it's like the coolest thing ever, so they've watched it multiple times. That's
I'm excited to
the
watch.
show that kind of inspired this. So
Right. Same production team, right? Animators and stuff.
yep.
I'm excited. The one I really want to watch is the Warhammer episode
Yes.
because, and I knew I probably couldn't watch that one with Des, so I was like, I'll wait till after he's gone because I'm assuming it's going to have kind of a tone of what the new game is like. Transitioning into, speaking of, did you see the Warhammer news today?
I did see that.
Henry Cavill did come out and say that it is confirmed. Amazon Prime Video is doing a live action Warhammer. He is going to star in it. But that's all the details we got. But there were rumors, they were in talks kind of deal, but basically the news got confirmed today. That's going to happen. So
Yeah,
that's
like
exciting too.
all the details are hammered out and official now. So
they're Warhammered out.
Which I guess I didn't realize that wasn't like official yet. I thought that was pretty official, but I didn't know that it wasn't like we don't have a streaming platform specifically and creative differences or creative liberties, I guess, were all decided on. So love that. Love me some Henry Cavill.
Of course.
It's great. It's great. What are the other things we talk about? For me, I fell ass backwards into probably the best video game of the year. Was not expecting it. I was excited about this game coming out, but
that's a big statement from you.
Dude, okay. So we are obviously Indiana Jones nerds. We've done episodes about it. You, I feel like, are more protective over that property than I was, because the new movie that came out you were not happy about, or at least it didn't. It was like, why do this?
I liked the new movie, but yes, my question was why do this? But I thought it was better than critics did.
Okay. And I think ever since the Crystal Skull came out, people have been kind of like, why are we doing this? We didn't need to do this. It's hurting Indy's legacy, blah, blah, blah. Right. So there's a video game that came out. Of course, it's like the Circle of Destiny or something. I can't believe it. I gotta Google the name of it. It's not that's the Dial of Destiny is the movie that came out. It's the Circle,
Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
The Great Circle. Okay. I just got to the part where they're actually talking about the Great Circle pieces, which I'm multiple hours into this game. Anyways, it's a Bethesda game, but it's made by the same people that did the Chronicles of Riddick Butcher Bay game. That was kind of an indie game from back in the day. That was actually
it was a really good game.
Like a cult following video game, kind of like the original movie.
I think that was original Xbox game. Xbox game. Yeah,
it was. So it's the same team behind that, but they're a part of Bethesda. So the people that make Skyrim, Fallout, blah, blah, blah. This movie is set in the time frame. It's between the first and third movie. So it's set in like 1937. And this game it fits with the original movies. Like the feeling of it, the opening of the game is the tutorial is basically just the opening scene of the first movie,
right?
Where he goes through and he tries to pick up the gold monkey statue, the golden
idol, and the boulder.
The big ball comes after you. That's basically the tutorial, but like shot for shot, the animation, the graphics looks real. And Troy Baker, who is a very, very famous voice actor. He's done Batman. He's done the Joker. He's done. Did he do Nathan Drake? I can't remember.
Wasn't he Joel in Last of Us too? Last of Us Part 2.
Yes, yeah. He is like one of, if not the top voice actor for video games over the last like 10, 15 years.
Right.
He does Indiana Jones's voice, and it literally looks and sounds and feels like Indiana Jones from the original movies. It's so fun. Like it's all kind of open world. It's like it follows exactly how those movies were, where you're globe trotting. Feels like Indiana always has a like a buddy in some random part of the country. Like he always
Yep.
knows someone somewhere. Starts out at the Vatican, where you're kind of sneaking around. It's occupied by Mussolini and the Russians, or Italians, sorry, and the Italians, and they're working with the Nazis. You're basically trying to find a secret like labyrinth under the Vatican to start the game off, and it's just like it's so cool. It's so fun. It
That
feels,
sounds awesome.
if you like the original movies, this game is it. It's IGN has it rated at like a 9 out of 10.
I think
Everything
everybody's in the 9s
across
pretty
the board,
much.
yes, 9 or 10 out of 10. So it's awesome. I think you should play it because I think you would actually enjoy it. So
Yeah, I think it's one of the newer games that's come out that like your review and the reviews I've read, and it sounds like something I actually would get into. The thing with me is like I spend so much time doing other shit that I don't usually. Video games are usually like the first thing that gets cut out because they take such a commitment to get into and complete that it's like I really got to find something that I can get into and not have to worry about pissing my wife off. So.
The cool thing about Indiana Jones is it's on Game Pass. So if you have Xbox, if you're already paying for Game Pass, it's free to play. So
now you have convinced me.
That's the other cool thing that for me, we have just been so disappointed with AAA games over the last probably 3 or 4 years of just being promised the world, being told that this new Star Wars game is going to be the greatest game ever, and it just ends up being nothing that was promised. So I think that's why a lot of us went into this with like, oh yeah, the Indiana Jones game is coming out. Okay, cool. That's not going to be anything. And yeah, and then we're like, holy shit, this is awesome. So
yeah,
I paid there. You can do the premium, which gives all the DLC, and it was like a 3-day early download. So I think yesterday or today is now available on Game Pass. But if you paid like $30, you could play it 3 days early. And I was like, I want to play this over the weekend. They got me.
That's how they get you.
Me with it.
That's how they get you.
Got me. So they did that timing for a reason. Like, do you want to do something this weekend? Here's a game. Pay $30. Anyways, what else you got? What you got?
So just a couple quick hits, real quick, because we're rolling. News broke last night. It sounds like Chris Evans is coming back for Avengers Doomsday for sure. Obviously, everybody would assume he's going to be a multiverse version of Captain America. Maybe not, but wouldn't everybody be disappointed if he's not, if he's like Johnny Storm again, which was great in Deadpool and Wolverine. It was a great cameo, but if you're bringing him back for Avengers Doomsday, like, boy, I sure hope it's as a version of Captain America, because that's give the people what they want.
Dude, him playing Johnny Storm, did that not... Because it was almost like when he was Captain America, you're like, this guy is a fucking home run hitter. Like, how did we not know about... Why didn't we love him prior? Because we'd all seen him. And then he is back in his Johnny Storm character, and you're like, oh, like, that's why we didn't. You're like,
oh, but it kind of fits the tone of this movie, though, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. I meant more of just like the character, like the Johnny Storm character. He does such a great job with being the fucking like hopeful Boy Scout as Captain America, and as Johnny Storm, he's just like this fucking New Jersey dickwad. So I hope it's freaking Captain America. If they bring back Johnny Storm, I'm not excited about that. But Captain America,
so
yes.
Quick one there. Another quick one. We got our first trailer today for Danny Boyle's 28 Years Later, which is obviously a sequel to 28 Weeks Later, which was a sequel to 28 Days Later. Boy, and Alex Garland's writing it too. Alex Garland's obviously very famous. Did Ex Machina. He did Annihilation. Like he's awesome. He did the Civil War that just came out earlier this year. Like it looks amazing. Obviously it's a first trailer, but you would expect it to be amazing because those first two movies are so awesome. The Ray Fiennes, like real quick shot in the trailer, he's like bald, he's all like hulking, and he's like looks like he's just gone through the trenches, and I just like, I haven't seen him bald since he was Voldemort, but is he a bad guy, is he a good guy, what is he? It's cool. And then there's a scene in the trailer, you see it real quick, where this like super emaciated zombie like rises up in this field, and everybody's like, it's Cillian Murphy, and it actually does look like his character from the first movie. And he said he's producing it, and he said he's in it in a interesting and fun way that fans will like. And so I'm wondering if that's what it is, because it looks strikingly like him, is this zombie. So that would be kind of a neat little
too.
Yeah, it'd be a cool nod. But man, that trailer looks good. I'm excited for that movie because those first two are just great.
Dude, there are times where a trailer comes out and it's like, the trailer is perfection. This movie was like, that was a fucking good trailer.
Like, and I didn't get a chance to look up what the voiceover is that's happening during it, but it's crazy. Dude, some like old audio, like news
like
war
Charles
reel
Chaplin or something like from The Dictator.
It's crazy. I don't know what it is, but it's some old like audio clip from like 100 years ago or something. It's wild.
Like slowly rising, like the terror just raises and raises as you're watching. So it makes it immediately got me juiced for that movie. So nice.
Agreed.
Love that. One other thing that I wanted to talk about or was going to bring up that I won't get into too much spoilers since you haven't watched it yet, nerd. Creature Commandos came out this past week, and also 2 thumbs up. What a way to kick it off. You definitely can tell that it was like this is not the project that we're using to kick off this whole universe and world, but we were making it, and we're gonna obviously put it in that world, and it perfectly like it's like a perfect dip of your toes in the water of what the DCU will be. Gives you a little bit of an idea of like how the superhero landscape or who knows who in the world type of thing. But the Creature Commandos themselves, James Gunn's like take on the characters, it's Suicide Squad if the Suicide Squad were like Universal monsters, kind of. Now they're like, so there's Frankenstein's wife, Frankenstein, who's David Harbour, is in it. There's it's very off the wall, kind of reminiscent of the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Right. In its own way. It's not trying to be that, but very much gives that vibe of like, this is a totally different take on a superhero group, but like I'm into it. Like the music choices and stuff.
I think our biggest beef when they announced it was like, why is that the first thing from the new DCU? And then we talked about it last week. Like James Gunn was like, I was already working on this, guys. Like it wasn't like this was my choice to be first. It was because I was already doing it when they asked me to run DC Studios. And it was like, I'm not going to scrap it. But obviously, like you said, he was very successful with Guardians of the Galaxy. He was very successful with Suicide Squad. It's kind of his thing to do the ragtag off the wall team up. So I haven't gotten the chance to watch it yet, just because I had other things going on, or when I watched it, I was, watching movies with the kids and stuff. And I asked you if this was something that was suitable for younger viewers. And you're like, oh, nope. That's not. Definitely not.
First, I was like, yeah, this is super fun and awesome. Do watch it with them. And then I'm like, never mind. Don't do that. Do not do that. Do not.
Never mind. So, good. Yeah. And so just to go back to the 28 years later,
Oh shoot! I didn't realize we were
I looked it up.
talking
I looked it up.
about.
So the recording is of Taylor Holmes's 1915 reading of the poem Boots from 1903, which is a telling of the inner thoughts of soldiers marching through South Africa during the Second Boer War. So it's wild.
Cut.
It is, and boy, did it fit.
Creepy old speech on a freaking old. Gosh, I can't even think. I want to say like a monophone, but that's not the right word.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Who knows what it was called back in 1915, right?
It's like on a wax thing. So. Cool. What else you got?
I think you got anything else that we really need to talk about? Otherwise, I think we should just jump right into it.
Let's do it.
Let's do that. Let's take us into our Nostalgia Goggles movie of the week. Those not familiar with Nostalgia Goggles, this is only our second time we've done the Nostalgia Goggles segment. Basically, it's an older movie that we really loved from our childhood, and has it held up the test of time through those nostalgia goggles? And this week we decided, because it's Christmas, we're going to do the classics Home Alone and Home Alone 2, which were like perfect for my age, because I think Macaulay Culkin and I are about the same age. Obviously, I was 8 years old when the first one came out. I was 10 years old when the second one came out. So this was right in my wheelhouse for the time. And I hadn't watched the second one in a very, very long time. But like I told you before, when it started and I was watching it, I'm quoting stuff. Like I remember all of it, immediately. Like when he's watching Angels with Even Filthier Souls, I was like quoting the entire thing. I was even
you were smooching with my brother, weren't you?
Little Mo with the gimpy leg. I knew right away. And so,
Cliff, I could go on forever, baby.
Yeah, there's just things that burn into your mind that you never forget, and apparently that was one of those things. So it was good to remember. But just to get to the details, so Home Alone, the original, is a 1990 American comedy film directed by Chris Columbus, written by the late great John Hughes. Cast includes Macaulay Culkin as Kevin McAllister, Joe Pesci as Harry, and Daniel Stern as Marv, the Wet Bandits. John Hurd as Peter, Kevin's dad, and Catherine O'Hara as Kate, Kevin's mom. There's a ton of people in this, but we're not going to list all the brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and everybody there. But that's the original. It was made on an $18 million budget. This fun fact, because I got a ton for this. But John Hughes actually shopped this movie to Warner Brothers first, and they were going to give him $10 million. But they weren't super flexible on the budget, so secretly he sent the script over to 20th Century Fox, who said that they'd be flexible if he needed more money. And that's why 20th Century Fox ended up making the movie instead of Warner Brothers, which is too bad for them, because the movie ended up grossing $476.7 million at the box office, which in $1990 is a lot of money. It's a lot of money now, but it's even more money back in 1990.
And it's a movie that's literally played 1 month a year, every year since. Like, you're muted. I can't hear you. I still can't hear you.
Sorry. And obviously, 20th Century Fox wanted a sequel greenlit quick from John Hughes after the success of the first one. So he wrote a sequel, which came out in 1992. So the 1992 American family comedy. Also directed by Chris Columbus and written by John Hughes. New cast members include several people, but mainly Tim Curry as Mr. Hector, the concierge at the Plaza Hotel, and Brenda Fricker as the Pigeon Lady. That movie was made for $28 million and ended up grossing $359 million at the box office, which wasn't near as much as the first one, but Macaulay Culkin was actually paid $4.5 million for this and 5% of the movie's gross. So he made a ton of money for a kid.
Damn. That's probably why he had, he was like the first child actor that was like emancipated or something, right?
Oh, I don't think so, because all of his brothers and sisters acted too.
Oh, I thought I remember him being like one of the famous actors that was like, he was really rich, so his parents Nice. Love that. Yeah, these two movies, we've talked about this on very recent episode, that these are Christmas movies in our house that we watch every single year. This year my kids are extra obsessed with it. So, for me, we owned the VHS of Home Alone 2, and we didn't own the VHS from Home Alone 1. So the only time we could watch 1 was if it was on TV, but we watched 2 all the time, at least during Christmas time. So it actually wasn't until I was much older that I was able to go back and watch number 1, like kind of a little bit more in detail. So I'm a more fond to number 2 than number 1.
It was funny growing up. I know we had the first one on VHS. I don't remember having the second one, so it was opposite. But it was funny. We would watch this movie, and then my stepdad would rewind it to the part where the wet bandits try to break into the house, and he would rewatch the entire ending again. And he would just watch that last like 30 minutes. Sometimes he would just put the movie and just watch that. He thought it was the funniest damn thing in the world.
My kids, their favorite part of the movie, like they'll watch the whole movies, but they sometimes when they'll put it on or they'll ask to put it on, they'll want to skip all the way to the traps, as they call it. Of
course. That's the best part of the movie.
Traps. Like this is the coolest part of the movie. So, well, the concept of Home Alone is pretty simple. In both movies, basically the same thing happens, but Kevin he is the youngest. He's the youngest in the family. It's Christmas time. It's the extended family is in town. Kevin and his family, it's their house that they live at. His dad is the big buku bucks guy who's paying for some Christmas trip for this whole family. Kevin gets in a fight or an argument, gets angry at his family, or they get mad at him. He gets in trouble the night before they're supposed to leave. Some type of mischief ensues that makes it to where they miss their wake up call.
Power outage. The alarm goes on. Nobody had cell phones, so you had to rely on your plugged in alarm clock.
Yes. In the first movie, it's a power outage. In the second movie, Kevin wants to charge his new, this little recorder Walkman thing. I forget the name of it.
Is it the Talk Boy or something like that?
Yeah, yes, it is the Talk Boy. It's got this little thing that sticks out, and that movie is what, I don't know if they made it for the movie or that was the main, but that was the new hotness when that movie came out. Everybody wanted one of those things. So, but he wants to plug it in and charge his thing, and it unplugs the alarm clock, so it resets their alarm. So, but they miss their wake up call. They're running super late. The very famous Home Alone music kicks in. That's like they're just running around. They're all late for everything. And in the chaos, in the first movie, Kevin was sent up to the attic because he was in trouble. And then they have this thing in the morning. They miss their wake up call. They race out to go catch a flight to head out to wherever they're going. I forget in the first movie.
France. They're going to Paris because that's where the dad, Peter's brother, lives.
Yes. So movie 1, they're going to Paris for Christmas. Mm-hmm. In movie 2, they're supposed to go to Miami for Christmas.
Right.
And so movie 1, they head off to the airport. They take off. They're running late. They get there just in time to leave. And then Kevin wakes up and comes downstairs, and there's no one home. And he is now home alone.
I made my family disappear.
Yeah. He makes a wish to that he wishes that his family would disappear for Christmas. And so he then thinks that he has wished them away. And in the second movie, he's not left home alone. Same thing. They almost miss their wake up call. They're running late. They both jump in the vans to take off to go to the airport, and they kind of have a moment of like, we're missing something. Kevin. And then Kevin kind of pops up in the front seat. He's there. So they didn't forget Kevin. Well, they get to the airport. Kevin wants to put batteries in his little Walkman talk boy thing, and ends up, his dad gets ahead of him, and he ends up following the wrong guy who he thinks is his dad to a different plane. And he gets on one plane, Semi gets on another. In Home Alone 2, when the dad is running through the airport, he is in a tan pea coat, like a long tan pea coat. My entire life, I have called those pea coats Home Alone pea coats, and I had wanted one. I had asked for it as a Christmas gift, like for many, many years, and finally got my Home Alone pea coat a couple years back. Steph got me. So there's just something about that tan pea coat running through the airport that just makes me think of Home Alone 2. So but yeah, so I'm not going to kind of go through both movies at the same time, but let's stick with number 1 first, and then we'll jump to number 2. These movies are so funny. Kevin is just like, it's the ultimate dream for a kid. Like, what would life be like if I had the house all to myself? I could do whatever I want, go where I want, get in any trouble I want. And Kevin kind of leans into that at first. So I don't know if you want to talk at all about kind of the first movie or what.
No, you're right. So he kind of leans into the I'm home alone, I can do whatever he wants. He's making like a giant ice cream sundae that's, it's chocolate, cherries, marshmallows, all different kinds of ice cream. It's just massive. He's sitting in the chair and he's watching adult movies, like action movies he's not supposed to be watching. Angels with Filthy Souls. And, he's even like yelling. He's like, I'm watching a bad movie. Come out and stop me. I'm eating junk food. Come out and get me. Because he thinks his family's like playing a trick on him. There's some funny scenes where he sleds down the stairs out the front door and flies out into the yard right in the snow. All sorts of stuff like that. He breaks into his brother's room climbs and gets fireworks out of his chest. He's looking at dirty magazines. He's getting money out of his lockbox and that stuff.
Buzz's girlfriend. Woof.
So yeah, it's great. It's exactly what probably a kid would do if he wasn't scared shitless. So Kevin's leaning into it because he thinks he made his family disappear because he wished them to be gone because they were all treating him like crap. They weren't really treating him like crap. They were just holding him accountable because he was being a little dickhead. That's basically what happened. So he's doing all that. Like, I think he does it like day one. I mean, literally, he's home alone for like 3 days, but he does so much it feels like it's like a week and a half, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're on the flight and like dad's cutting up his breakfast on the plane, right? And mom's like, I forgot something, like, oh, did you turn off the coffee pot, or did you close the garage? And he's like, nope, that's what it is. We forgot to close the garage. And then she does the famous Kevin, and she realizes that they never woke him up. He's home alone, all that. And the phones are out because of the crazy storm that knocked out the power and stuff. So, parents of the year, right?
Yeah. There's a line early the night that like all the families there. Kevin knocks over a soda or does something that someone spills a soda and it makes someone smash a chair. Like they back up in their chair and smashes one of the kids' face. And the uncle makes like one of the funniest lines that we say all the time, my brothers and I. Look what you did, you little jerk. Like, it's just such a random. Both movies have so many fucking awesome one-liners.
You were saying that, and I was like, "You're such a disease." I think I used to say that, like, "You're such a disease."
Yeah, dude. Like, and then in number 2, Buzz is like whispering, like, "Beat that trout sniffer." Like, there's just so many random quotes from both of these movies that are like timeless, and they make the movie what it is. So Kevin's home alone, and meanwhile, there are, who you mentioned earlier, at this time, the Wet Bandits, Marv and Harry, who are basically two just burglars who are they're going around. They've got this harebrained scheme for Christmas time. People are going out of town. A lot of people don't remember, but Harry actually is he pretends to be a cop. There's a cop that shows up the first night to just kind of check on the neighborhood and make it, hey, we know a lot of people are going out of town. We're making sure people are locking their doors and checking if they're going to be out of town. Basically putting some feelers out to see who's not going to be here so that they could rob them later. I saw a couple posts of stories that were like, a lot of people didn't realize that was actually Marv. When you go back, it's like surprising.
Yeah.
So they think this house is empty. They plan to go and rob it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they recognize that basically Kevin is there by himself. So
he foils him a couple times. Like the first time Marv goes up to the door, Kevin turns on Angels with Filthy Souls and he hears it playing. And Marv's like, somebody got blown away in there, you know?
Yeah, so Kevin, the reason why he's so freaking cool in these movies are so great is because he does these insane traps or like things to get rid of these burglars. And the first of it is when Marv is trying to sneak in through, kind of get a vibe through the doggy door. Kevin's playing this gangster movie at full blast, lights firecrackers in a pot. So Marv literally thinks someone gets shot inside this house. So it's a ton of fun. They end up finding out that Kevin is there alone. So then they plan on, we're going to rob this house and kidnap this kid, take this kid out. I don't really know why they were like,
I think they were probably,
let's go rob him.
We can break in. He's home alone. We can tie him up or something. We can steal everything. Yeah. Like it's not going to do anything.
Yeah. So Kevin then basically, not to jump to the end of the movie, but the main part of the movie that people remember.
We should set up though, like meanwhile, when all this is happening, his mom is doing everything she can to get back to him, right? Like she's literally selling like her jewelry. She's like giving people cash to go take a later flight so she can take their seats just to get back to the United States. What's the one scene? She's like, I've been to New York. I've been to Dallas. I've been to, where the hell am I? And he's like, Sheboygan or whatever, you know, like doesn't even know where she's at. Trying everything to get back. And Kevin's starting to realize like, I really do miss my family. You know, there's a lot of things that I need them for. There's a really good scene. And that's really what obviously the movie's all about, the traps at the end. But the message in the movie is during the holidays, we want to be with the ones we love. We should treat them with respect and kindness and things like that. And he has this really good scene. They have the scary neighbor, Mr. Marley, who, you know, Buzz tells him is like kills people and he's in the
he's a serial killer, hides bodies.
Yeah. It's so dumb when you watch it now because he's like salting his sidewalk and he's like, the salt turns the bodies to mummies. And it's like, that's so stupid, Buzz, you know, now. But back then it was like mummies.
Buzz is such a buzzkill.
Yeah, Buzz such a shitty brother. But
he really is.
So he sees Marley at the church and he's kind to him and he basically talks about how he doesn't talk to his family because he had a falling out with his son. And so Kevin and him have this conversation and it's like, you know, at the holidays is probably the best time to reconcile with somebody because it's all about, you know, family and giving. And that's the message of the movie, right? Like that's the important stuff. But go ahead. We got to go to the part where he just abuses two grown men.
Giggity. You do bring up a great point. There is a ton of heart in these movies, and it really also does a great job of like hammering home like just Christmas vibes. There's famous classic Christmas songs playing.
Absolutely.
At almost every scene we've talked about, there's some Christmas song that if you were to play it right now, most people would remember that exact scene. So, one actually, before we get into the traps, there's another famous part from the movie where Kevin like puts on aftershave and he screams, "Ah!" My kids that part of the movie they make us rewind like 8 times every time it plays because Parker just thinks it's so funny when he's like,
dude, there's so many freaking funny scenes in that movie. Like, there's so many different scenes. Like, even the part where he goes into the shop and he's like asking about the toothbrush. Like, you know, I don't even remember what he asks the lady, and she's like, I don't know the answer to that. And she goes, he's like, could you find out for me? I don't know if it helps prevent gingivitis or something. It's something stupid like that, right? So then she asks the guy, and he's like, I don't know. And then, like, meanwhile, Marley walks in, and Kevin's scared, so he slowly backs up with this toothbrush, and he runs out the door. And the lady's like, Jimmy, stop that boy. And, like, it turns, and this kid literally is like a cartoon and runs after him. And of course, there's a cop right out front, and he's like, shoplifter. And Kevin's running from the police. It's perfect because it's hilarious. And then there's the scene where he like goes into the grocery store and he's buying groceries because there's none in the house. And he's like, oh, I have a coupon for that one, And it's just
being an adult.
Macaulay Culkin was so freaking perfect.
Yes.
Like, it was lights out. And he got the movie because he was the little brother in Uncle Buck. Mm-hmm. So John Hughes had already worked with him, and he's like, he's the perfect kid for this. Fun fact, John Mulaney actually was asked to audition for this role, like the stand-up comedian actor John Mulaney.
What movies is he in? Give me a John Mulaney.
No, he's a stand-up comedian.
Damn it, why do I not know that off the top of my head? I'm Googling
he does voice acting and stuff too. But anyway, John Mulaney, yeah, he was asked to do this back when he was a kid, so which I thought was hilarious.
He's not on SNL. He does like anyways, I recognize him. How did I not know that?
Yeah, just a couple other fun facts about the movie before we get to the end. Robert De Niro was originally asked to play Harry. He turned it down.
Oh, that's wild.
He would have been good too, but I mean, like, Joe Pesci's great, but dude, Robert De Niro would have been good too.
The burglars are like just those 3 casting are like perfect.
Listen, like, Daniel Stern didn't do a ton, right? Like, he was in City Slickers. He was in Rookie of the Year. He was in that one.
Yep.
He didn't do a ton of stuff that was big. He's so freaking perfect as Marv, like as the bumbling idiot. The way he acts when, like, in the second one when he's getting bricks to the face, he's so freaking good.
When he's getting electrocuted. Marv, I've reached the top. Like, what a hole.
What a hole, yeah.
He's so freaking good.
He was great. It was awesome. So
okay, so Kevin, this freaking like 8-year-old kid, maybe even younger, dude, sets like this in one day, comes up with the world's like most insane, intricate traps of how he's going to catch these 2 burglars and sets them up.
He's not trying to catch
them. He's not trying.
He's trying to murder them, basically.
Yes. So he sets these traps up to just absolutely destroy these bumbling fools and
destroy.
For whatever reason, it's so funny to watch. Like, he sets a trap.
This is my house. I have to defend it.
Yes. So like, he gets a BB gun it's Buzz's BB gun. He takes Buzz's tarantula. He takes all these freaking micro machines. He puts Christmas ornaments under a window. So
those old school glass ones that are just fucking awful.
But he sets everything up to prep you for the next trap, like for those ornaments specifically. Like, he sets like tar for Marv to get his shoes and his socks stuck in, so he knows he's not going to have any shoes on. So then at that point, he's going to step on these freaking Christmas ornaments, or step on these micro, or step on that nail, or the nail that you watch. Anytime I step on something sharp, I immediately, that's all I picture is in that movie, the vivid shot of a nail going into Marv's foot is just awful.
It's
But
awful.
like he puts water on the stairs outside so it freezes over. So like they're slipping and flopping all over the place. He puts like a brander. I don't know how the fuck he got
some
hot
kind of
iron.
like coil heater. I don't even
Puts
know
it
if that's
on the-
something people have in their homes.
Puts on the door handle and basically turns the door handle into a hot brand. And Harry, of course, grabs it and melts his hand. And
Yep.
like it's so funny that Joe Pesci and what's the name of
Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci, they're like the things they're saying as they're getting their asses beat. Joe Pesci the whole time is like just it's so good. They make it so funny because they are hilarious getting their asses kicked. So eventually they get into the house. They've got their ass beat through these 40 traps. Then they're okay, we're making our way up the stairs, and Kevin has paint cans on ropes basically set up and tricks them to try to come after him and smashes them with these paint cans on these ropes. And it's just funny watching them get fucking smashed by these things. They end up making it upstairs. They chase Kevin out. They're chasing Kevin as he's trying to make it out of the house. He has set up a zip line over to the treehouse. They actually grab Kevin's foot. They're about to get him, and just in the nick of time, Kevin's able to reach Buzz's tarantula that's right there. He puts it right on Marv's face.
And he screams so perfectly.
So, and then Harry ends up grabbing a crowbar and just smashes the shit out of Marv, trying to kill this fucking tarantula. Kevin ends up taking the zip line over. He gets away. Like so the thing I didn't mention is the wet bandits. What they do is they want to have a calling card. They think it'd be cool as a burglar
Marv
group.
does.
Yeah, Marv wants to be the wet bandit. So what they do anytime they rob a house is they plug the kitchen sink and they turn the sink on and they let it overflow. So it flows the house up with water. So what Marv doesn't think about is that that's essentially they are now leaving every single time where they've robbed something. So if they ever get caught, they can backtrack to it. So not to get too much into the weeds, but so that basically takes you to close to the end of the movie, the first movie. He calls the cops and says they're breaking into the other house, tricks them into going over there, and they end up getting arrested.
Well, they cut him off because they go in the front or they go in the back door. Well, he goes in the basement. He's going to go upstairs, and he thinks they're following him. But like they come in and they're waiting for him at the top of the stairs in the kitchen, and Joe Pesci hangs him on the freaking hook on the door. And he says he's going to bite off every one of his fingers, and it's to pay him back for all the things they just did to him. And that's when Old Man Marley shows up and knocks him out with his shovel,
with his snow shovel that he killed people with. So it ends up being a nice little moment with the neighbor who he originally thought was a serial killer. He's actually a really nice old guy. He misses his family, helps out, saves Kevin. That actually is Christmas Eve when all that stuff is going on.
Yeah.
And so
meanwhile, Mom is in the back of a truck with a bunch of polka band members, right? Like they'll give her a ride back to Chicago. And like the head guy is John Candy. And fun story about that. He could only shoot for one day, and John Hughes really wanted him. And he only made $414 to film this role. And most of his dialogue was made up, and it's fucking hilarious. It really is.
Yes.
But he only had one day to shoot, and it took 23 hours. They filmed for 23 hours because they only had him for one day.
That's crazy. Random. And how random was his character? He's like the leader of a polka, of a traveling
Gus Zielinski, the polka king or whatever. And
the polka king.
Yeah.
They're riding in the back of like a U-Haul to
Yes.
like get
They're in a
them to.
box truck.
Yes. So she basically goes with them because she can't get. She is jumping flight to flight and eventually runs into a snag where she can't get on a plane to get home in time. And she wants to get home to her son, obviously, as soon as possible. Doesn't want him to be alone for Christmas. Doesn't want him to be alone at all. But the Polka King gets her. He overhears her story in the airport. Is like, we're going to be heading this way anyways. Jump in the back of our truck. And then you get multiple scenes of him just talking to her and a little bit of polka action at one point. But she gets him home, or he gets her home right on Christmas morning. Kevin comes downstairs. He kind of wishes his Christmas wish is to get his family back or to get his mom back. And comes downstairs all excited for Christmas. Looks, she's not there, no one's there, and he has a moment where he's defeated, and then his mom walks in the door, and it's like this epic, heartwarming moment of mom reunited with son, which, looking back now in 2024, like, it's hard to look at it when you watched it. You're like, oh, this is great, but looking back now, you're like, these people need CPS called on
Especially
them.
especially when you get to the second one. You're like,
Yes,
oh,
the
okay.
second one makes it even more so. Like, wait a minute, this is not your first time that you've left and lost.
Just missed
your
the
kid.
fucking flight, right? Make sure you got your kids. Like, how did you not know you didn't have your children? Like,
yes. So,
okay.
But yes, that's the first movie. That is what set off, immediately became an instant Christmas classic.
Yep.
For us, like I said, it's a staple Christmas movie for us to watch every year. So
I want to say this before we get into the second one. This is we had this a little bit of this conversation before, and we didn't talk about it on the podcast, but this is what sequels were back in the day, right? Like, this is what sequels typically were. You had some anomalies where you had a sequel and then somebody did a really great job with it, like Alien and Aliens, Terminator 2. But typically sequels were just rehashes of the first movie. Like, that's what it was. Like, what worked, it worked, so make another one, right? And usually it was bigger scale. They had more money. You had a bigger budget, right? Like, the first one made $476 million. So you have double the budget to this time. So what are you going to do with it? So John Hughes is like, we're going to do the exact same movie, but we're going to make it New York so that it's bigger scale and everything looks bigger and all that stuff, right? Like, but that's what sequels were. And that's why typically they weren't great, because it was just a rehash and people didn't want rehashes. They wanted new stories and differences and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. The second movie is very much just Home Alone 1, but in New York setting.
Yeah.
But difference for me, is it works.
It does. It works perfectly. Yeah, it is. Especially for the time. Why would you screw it up? Why would you screw it up?
Now, again, there's nostalgia goggles on for me, because this was like this was the Home Alone movie that we watched way more. I think I might have seen this one before I saw the first one, actually, looking back. But the second one, it's lit a fire in me that, like, when I think of New York, I think of like magical Christmas time. So, and it's because of this movie. So, second movie, we'll just kind of pick up where we had kind of already talked about. They go to the airport. Parents and family get on the airplane to go to Miami. He gets on this plane and walks over and realizes that he's not in Miami, and goes up and asks the lady at the counter, which is actually the mom from Modern Family, who is the ticket lady at the counter, where he's like, she's like, excuse me, what city is that over there? And she's like, excuse me, sir, that's New York. And then he goes and sits down and has the famous kind of moment. He's like, my family's in Miami and I'm in New York. My family's in Miami and I'm in New York. And then ding dong, ding dong, ding.
Because we had the same thing, right? Like basically, like he got in trouble again because Buzz was being an asshole, and then he retaliated, and of course everybody's mad at him because Buzz made this bullshit apology, and Kevin's like, I ain't apologizing. I ain't apologizing for nothing. And of course, so yeah, he's mad at his family again. They're all mad at him. It's the same thing.
Yes, and his mom even threatens not jokingly, she kind of sarcastically says like, oh, wouldn't you want to be alone for Christmas again or something like that? And like totally references that like they left him home alone for fucking multiple days.
Right.
Which I'm shocked Kevin didn't snap right back at her like, oh yeah, like that's something you'd want to bring up. Like that's something you should
I'd hold
be
that
proud
over my
of,
mom's
right?
head forever. Like, hey, remember that time
For
you
the rest
fucking
of the
forgot
time.
me?
You went to France? Oh.
Didn't realize I was gone until you were halfway across the Atlantic, did you? I'd say that all the time.
The difference with this movie is that Kevin is in New York, and also Kevin has his dad's wallet. So he's got his dad's credit card. And he pretty much maxes this card out by going and doing anything and everything. He goes to the Plaza Hotel, which he only knows about because
Ding Dang Dong.
Ding Dang Dong.
Stay at the world-renowned Plaza Hotel.
Everybody remembers these
That's what I'm saying. I hadn't seen the
like,
movie in years, and immediately I'm like, contestants of Ding Dang Dong stay at the world-renowned Plaza Hotel.
Yeah, so Ding Dang Dong is a TV game show that plays earlier in the movie when he's home, and Jesus Christ, I just knocked my mic over. You hear this thing about the Plaza Hotel earlier in the movie, so they kind of are like foreshadowing. So he's like, oh, I'm in New York. I know there's a hotel in here, like the Plaza. And the Plaza is essentially like the most expensive hotel in New York at the time. Yeah. And so he goes, and Kevin has just this he's got his talk boy that he uses to basically say a line and then to record a line of his dad and then plays it in slow motion so it has like a deeper voice. This is Kevin McAllister, the father. Calls in so that he can get a hotel room because obviously as a 13-year-old you can't go and get a hotel room by yourself.
Credit card, you got it.
So and at this point, as he's kind of starting to explore New York, his parents obviously have realized.
Well, they don't know where he's at.
They get to the airport. True. So they don't know where he's at. So they show up to the airport. They're getting their bags. They're handing their bags down, and they have this freaking line where they go, "Oh, Kevin's bag. Give that to Kevin. Give this to Kevin." And they just do that through like 10 people. Give this to Kevin, and then they give it to the last kid, the little nerdy kid, and he's like, "Hey, he goes, here you go, Kevin," and some old lady. It's like not part of their group. He's like, "Oh, I guess you're not." Kevin's not here, and just hands it back. Kevin's not here. Gets all the way back to mom, and she's like, "Kevin's not here." Kevin, and then passes out in the. Right. They realize they've done it again. Yes, they go. They're meeting with the Miami police. They're sitting in there, and they realize. He's like, "What's the last time you saw him? Like, why? Like, where was he at?" And he's like, "Well, he had my bag. Kevin had my bag because he was trying to get batteries." And he's like, "Oh, Kevin's got my bag. Kevin's got my wallet. Kevin's got my credit cards." And the mom says a line like, "He doesn't know how." The cop says, "Perfect. We can trace that and find out where he is." And the mom's like, He's 13 or he's 11. He doesn't know how to use a credit card." And like as that line drops, it shows him like him getting his credit card swiped at the Plaza Hotel, where he has tricked the front desk lady and also Pennywise the clown.
Old Tim Curry.
Tim Curry is synonymous with the Grinch to me because of this movie. Tim Curry is the concierge. He very much picks up on something's off with this kid coming in and getting this hotel room. His dad's not there, but he's got a ton of money. So Tim Curry wants to start kind of getting some tabs on Kevin and see what he's doing. So enter Rob Schneider as the bellboy, who comes over to help Kevin bring his bags and take him to his room. So I said that Tim Curry is synonymous with the Grinch part because there's a line where like very nefariously Tim Curry's like says something about how he's going to go, like how he's looking into what's going on, or that he's figured out what's going on with Kevin, and he does this giant Grinch smile, and then it clips over to the Grinch from the cartoon where
I think
Kevin's
it's when the
watching.
credit card comes back declined. He's like,
Oh yeah, gotcha. But Kevin goes to his gigantic hotel suite that's just this luxurious red leather Christmas room.
Right.
I feel like you were going to jump in at something here.
No, I was going to say, like, meanwhile, we find out Harry and Marv have escaped from prison.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And they have gotten on a truck or some sort. They end up in a fish truck, but they end up at the docks in New York City. How convenient that Harry and Marv are in New York City the same time Kevin is.
Yes. What's also funny lines, they're in the fish truck and Harry's trying to have this like profound moment. He's like, smell that, Marv? That's freedom. It's like, no, it's fish. No, it's freedom. It's like, okay, it's freedom. And it's fish. Because they're at the fish market. But yes, I am glad that coincidentally they are in New York too, because that means we're going to get another night of traps at some point.
Abuse.
Yes. Kevin really starts to go, which he has a credit card, but he also has an envelope of a lot of cash that his dad had for this trip that they had planned. So he's able to buy a bunch of stuff. He gets a limo. Famous scene with Kevin's got this freaking limo. He's got a giant, large pizza. He's riding in this thing around New York during Christmas time. Asks the driver to take him to the biggest toy store, which is Duncan's Toy Chest, which he goes over and buys a bunch of toys. Meets Mr. Duncan, who owns the place. Learns about turtle doves, these two little Christmas ornaments that he ends up getting later in the movie.
Because he donates extra money that he said he mowed lawns to get. It's actually your dad's money. And he ends up donating it to the Children's Hospital because Mr. Duncan's like, we take all of the proceeds, on Christmas Eve, we take them that night, we take them to the Children's Hospital. And, meanwhile, Marv and Harry are in the toy store at the same time, hiding out in these like playhouses. And that's their plan. They're going to come back later before the store closes, hide in these playhouses, and then at midnight they're going to come out and they're going to steal all the cash. Like that's their big plan.
Yes, which their big plan basically stems from them thinking like where at this time of year is a place where there's a lot of cash that's just flowed in, and they're like toy stores. So let's go to a toy store, and that's how they end up there. So, and of course the money that is all being donated to the Children's Hospital is in a big, giant, clear treasure chest. So it's this big, giant chest of money. And so at this point, a couple of scenes later, Kevin actually realizes as he's standing at a crosswalk that he is standing right next to Harry and Marv. Which they end up realizing it's him as well. So like they have a little bit of a moment of like, oh my God, it's you. They tried chasing him. Kevin actually pinches the butt of some lady at the crosswalk who turns around and punches Marv right in the face while Kevin gets away. So now the game is afoot. They know that Kevin is in town. They've got a little bit of revenge in them. But also they want to rob the toy store. So ends up fast forward to nighttime.
And Marv just gives the whole plot away to Kevin.
Yeah, he does.
He's like, this is exactly what we're going to do. And Harry's like, Marv, what are you doing? Don't tell him our plan. And he's like, kids are dumb. And he's like, not this kid. Like, Marv, did you really forget what happened a year
Yeah,
ago when you got assaulted multiple
yeah,
times.
and sent us to prison, you fool. So yes, in their little scuffle where they had caught Kevin before he gets away, for whatever reason, they villain monologue and tell him everything because we need the story to continue. That's why.
Oh my gosh, was I just monologuing?
Yeah, very Incredibles.
Mm-hmm.
How you caught me monologuing. Um, so it turns out that Kevin has family that live in New York or have a place in New York, and it's
It's
the
actually the uncle that
same.
lives in France.
Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
family from France. They have a place in New York. So Kevin's like, "Oh, I'm going to go and get some help." Realizes that they are not there and that the house is under renovation. So he's like, "Oh, you know what? Perfect. I can turn this into my little trap hellhole," and turns this place into a death trap for two
Yep.
burglars.
Yep.
Goes back to the toy shed or to the toy store at the time that the burglars said they were going to be there, finds them rifling through cash. They're thinking they've gotten away scot-free.
Mhm.
Kevin sets up a little bit of a teeter-totter right in front of the window, puts a note on a rock, and throws a rock through this window because
Meanwhile,
a
he's taking
10-year-old kid.
Polaroids of him, right? He's taking Polaroids of
Yeah.
him.
Gets pictures of them, make sure everyone knows who it is, and then his plan essentially is to catch them in the act, beat them to death, and
Yeah.
then give them to the police is kind of his mindset.
I love the part where he's like got the rock with the note on it, and he's like, and Harry's like, no. You just see his face like slowly, like he knows what's about to happen.
Yes, which I always looked at like how fucking strong is Kevin that he could throw a rock through a storefront window like fucking Randy Johnson when he destroyed that bird pitching in that baseball game. Just fucking smokes the window.
Mm-hmm.
They go to obviously alarms start kicking off, so they got to get the hell out of there. They run. They're going to jump through the windows broken to chase after Kevin, and they end up landing on this teeter-totter and catapulting themselves up into the air to get themselves hurt for their first downfall of the night.
Yeah. Harry lands on the teeter-totter and he realizes immediately what's about to happen. Marv's jumping out the window and he's like, no. And he hits it and Harry lands on a car roof. And Marv's like, I kind of tweaked my ankle landing on that board. And Harry's like,
yes. So they follow Kevin. They end up going to find where Kevin's at, and they are very aware that this house is going to be booby trapped. And
he's on the roof of this brownstone. Like, I'm up here. Come and get me.
Yeah. He tricks it. He talks him into fucking standing under the building. And probably for me and my friends, like, this scene is what we laugh about the most.
Yes.
Or like it, no matter how many years go by, how many times you watch it, it's still funny. Kevin's got a bunch of bricks at the top of this building, and he is just smoking them in the head with these bricks. And just the way that there's some dialogue between both of them. Marv is just an absolute idiot. Harry is the only one who's somewhat smarter than the two.
Tiny bit.
But so freaking Marv gets drilled with this. Harry moves out of the way.
Well, this is the scene that proves that he grew up to become Joe Burrow. Because he's throwing dimes with these bricks.
That's actually they should really do a little bit of a connection there, like a Joe Burrow, Kevin McAllister throwing montage. Just drills freaking Marv right in the face. He goes down. He's pretty much knocked into another world. And it's just funny because there's a moment where he's on the ground. He's like, Harry. He's like pointing. He's just pointing.
He's got these angular like cuts on his head.
So he's trying to call up so Harry doesn't get hit by one of these bricks, and Harry realizes just in the nick of time that it's coming and steps out of the way, and it hits Marv again. So Marv's just getting drilled with all these bricks. I've been talking a lot. I need to get a drink. I'm going to let you take us into the traps.
The funniest part about that scene, I think, is because like he hits Marv with like the first 2 bricks, and he's like ready to throw another one at Harry, and Harry's like, "Go ahead, come on, throw it, go ahead," and he's ducks out of the way, and it hits Marv again. Just like he's brain dead. Actually, he would be dead if it was real.
Yeah, in real life,
at
he
this
would
point,
have died.
Yeah,
from the first one.
Of course, now they have to go after him, so they have to go their separate ways. So Harry's going to go all the way around the block to the alley, right? He's going to go in the alley, and he's going to go in the back way. And Marv's going to go in the front door, right? So he grabs the door handle, and there's this big rope, and he's pulling on it, and it's a staple gun. And oh my God, he staples the rope right to his ass, and then he turns around, and the rope's now tight because it was on his ass, and it hits him right in the woohoo baby maker. Woo! And he pulls out this staple that's like this long, just it's awful. Meanwhile, Harry's like trying to get in, and he's slimed this fire escape ladder, and he jumps and he falls off of it. It's just everything.
As you said that, I just I pictured it in my mind of like, yeah, I forgot. He fucking jumps to the ladder and slips right onto his back. Classic.
Everything trap wise in this movie is like dialed up to 11. Like it's awful. So Marv kicks in the door now with the staple gun, and he walks in, and there's no floor. He just falls straight down into the bottom, right? And that's when he does the wow, what a hole, and it's wild. I mean, what Marv ends up getting like paint thinner and all this paint like all over his body because the shelf falls on him. He has it rigged to fall on him. So then there's a sink. So he goes over to the sink so he can rinse it. He's like wiping paint off his eyes, and he goes to the sink, and it's like charged with electricity. He's got alligator clips like on it, and he like is electrocuted so bad they should actually show him as a skeleton for a second. And it's wild. And meanwhile, Harry's upstairs. All the different things that happen to him, like he gets his head caught on fire again, but he puts his head into a toilet bowl, which is actually filled with like kerosene. So it just boom, burns up his whole upper half is like crispy. They just get the crap kicked out of them. They're running up the stairs, and they stop, and they're like, "Oh, come on, Harry, let's go." And they wait for the paint cans come by, right? And after the 2 paint cans come by, they're like, "Oh, wait, let's go." And they run up, and there's this giant metal pipe just comes in. It's the whole width of the stairs comes and knocks them both down. And they fall through the hole, so they end up in the basement again. Like, they just get slaughtered in this movie.
Which does a great job of like taking things from the first movie and like turning it, like you said, dialing it up to 11. Or things that they're like, oh, they've seen this before, so they're going to get around it.
Terrible assault.
Kevin's smarter than you, and he's 12. There's at one point they're chasing him. They're close to catching him. He goes up like a final stairwell that has a closed door at the bottom of the stairs, and Kevin basically has a giant workshop tool shed, a wheel tool shed at the top of the stairs that very movie magically roll down a flight of stairs without just tipping over onto its side. But like at one point they can kind of hear through the door a really loud noise, and Harry and Marv are like putting their ears up to the door to try to hear it. Like, what's that sound?
It's like a full-size Craftsman tool set.
It comes down the stairs, crashes, just obliterates them through the door, crushes them into the wall. They both have like crooked, broken noses that they cracked to fix. And he's like, that was the sound of a tool shed falling down the stairs. Like, it's just another fucking great one-liner. But they end up going up to the top of the roof. Kevin's immediately about to climb down a rope, and he's like, oh, you guys can't catch me, or like, you almost got me. And So then they try to chase Kevin down this rope where they end up finding out they're like
It smells like kerosene.
no, he's like they're both climbing down this rope trying to go after Kevin. He's like, Harry, are you wearing aftershave?
Oh.
It's like, no, it's not aftershave, it's kerosene. The whole rope's soaked in it. And Marvin's like, oh, weird.
Why would someone soak a rope in kerosene?
Yeah. And then Kevin just lights it on fire, and it lights them on fire, to which they fall off all the way down to another kind of basement level, stoop level. They end up going through a wood panel that has a bunch of like wet, nasty paint in it. And
it's paint thinner, all sorts of sticky, like
disgusting
and stuff is nasty.
Yeah, so they get freaking a paint shower after falling like 3 stories to the ground. To then they chase Kevin into Central Park.
Well, Kevin had stopped and got a payphone, and he called the cops, and he says, "Hey, the guys that robbed Duncan's are in Central Park. Look for the fireworks."
Yep. And actually, earlier in the movie, he had seen, it's very reminiscent of the first movie. There's a character that's kind of seems like a scary bad guy.
The pigeon lady.
You end up finding out it's not. It's the pigeon lady, who is this like Central Park lady who has pigeons all over her at all times, which is very New York, very like, oh, everybody knows that one crazy character in that one part of town. Type of character. And so he kind of sees her earlier, gets scared of her, and runs away because he thinks she's going to like try to murder him, just like in the first movie. And so he ends up running into Central Park at night, just like the first movie. The burglars somehow get ahead of Kevin. They trick him. They end up catching him and are getting ready to kill him. And Harry actually pulls out a revolver and is getting ready to shoot Kevin, but his hands are so slimy and grimy from the paint thinner in the paint that he can't cock or load the gun. And at that point, the pigeon lady shows up and basically showers them in bird seed, which the second that she throws this bird seed all over both of them, pigeons just engulf both of them. And listening to Marv like scream just like he did when he was getting electrocuted, like while these pigeons are attacking him, it's fucking hilarious. As fireworks are going off that Kevin has set off, so they find him. They end up getting there. They arrest him. Kevin has saved the day once again. But you take us home here at the end of this thing.
So Kevin lights the fireworks. The cops show up. They find the bag of money. They find the pictures of them robbing the toy store. And Marv just starts like, oh, we just escaped from prison last week. Like he's telling him everything. And Harry's like, you idiot. He's giving it all away. Meanwhile, Kevin's family has arrived in New York. They've gone to the plaza. They've had this big altercation scene with Tim Curry where they're yelling at him because he like scared Kevin away because he tried to chase him, right? And there's even a scene where she slaps him and he just starts like...
He starts tearing up like a bitch.
Yeah, because she's like, I need to go find him. And ma'am, it's late night in New York City. That's very dangerous. And and he's like, oh, can I call you a cab or something like that? Just to, can I help you? And meanwhile, she's in Times Square. The rest of the family's kind of getting settled. The dad goes to the police station. The rest of the family is staying in a giant penthouse suite, compliments of the plaza because of what happened with them chasing Kevin off. And she goes to Times Square and she sees 2 cops and, they have a conversation. She's like, have you seen my son? Just let us do our job, ma'am. And she's like, if it was your kid, would you just wait? And he's like, absolutely not. And so he's like, where would you go? And she goes, where would he go? And he's tough. He's, he loves Christmas. And then she's like, I know where he's at. I need to go to Rockefeller Center, because she knew he was going to be at the big Christmas tree on Christmas Eve. And they have their little scene, just like in the first movie, where they both apologize to each other and they have this big embrace. And they go back to the hotel and they wake up and it's Christmas morning and Fuller wakes everybody up. Kevin's there. They all wake up and they go out and they find that Mr. Duncan had read the note and he had sent all these presents to Kevin and his family. How he knew they were at the plaza, I don't know. It's a mystery. And they get to open like all these, they have this giant tree and there's like hundreds of presents for all these kids. And, maybe Christmas isn't so bad. And Kevin, meanwhile, like he decides he's going to go run out to the pigeon lady and he's going to give her the turtle dove because they can be friends forever. I was watching this the other day and I was like, I said to my wife, like, what a perfect ending. Like, I'm going to leave my penthouse suite at the plaza that's full of free presents. And I'm going to go give the poor homeless pigeon lady a Christmas ornament because that's what you should do. That's what you should do on Christmas morning. Like that's what she wants. She wants this tiny ass little ceramic bird because it means a lot. Meanwhile, we have all this free shit. By the way, Dad's fucking rich already. He's already rich already because of that house they live in Chicago. Whatever. Take what you want out of it. I mean, it is what it is. But that's
the end of the movie is also where Kevin, like you hear the dad talking about, you spent $900 and something on room service.
Yeah,
Kevin. He's
probably Dad. You could probably afford it. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, like come on, Doc. You left me alone in New York. What the fuck else was I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's a Christmas classic. You said earlier you're probably going to give these both 10s. These are in Christmas movie specifically, in the Christmas movie realm. These are 10 Christmas movies for me. These are 10s, both of them. 10 and 10 as Christmas movies.
All right. Nostalgia goggles be damned. The original's a 9. It's a great Christmas movie. It's a freaking home run. The second one dips ever so slightly compared to the magic of the first one. It's an 8.5. I mean, Home Alone 2 is an 8.5. They're both fucking gold. I mean, they're great. You can watch them every year at Christmas.
Movies.
They're fun to watch back to back because they work so well together because it's the same movie, just bigger scale with like Harry and Marv now have severe brain damage at the end of the second one. So, but boy, yeah, great movies. Love them. Home Alone 2, the nostalgia goggles they're great. They're still great. Even as an adult, they're wonderful. But that takes us into my favorite segment. There can be only 5.
Only 5.
So what do you do when you're talking about Home Alone and Home Alone 2? Easy. Like Christmas sequels. There's a few out there. There's some really good ones.
There are a few out there.
There are a few, but there's at least 5.
There was. Kind of.
There's at least 5. Anyway,
let's jump into it. What you got?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll go first. So I went straight 5. I didn't do any honorable mentions. So I went straight 5. So number 5, I had the Santa Claus 2.
Nice.
Number 5. It's good. It's not anything near the first one. I don't even think I've ever seen the third one. But the original Santa Claus is so great with Tim Allen, and the second one's good. It has some of the magic of the first one, and it's all about really him finding a Mrs. Claus. Because Santa has to have a Mrs. Claus. And so it's kind of got this romance thing tossed in with the Christmas movie. It works. It's good. Most of the characters return. It's not great, but it's pretty good. So I had that at number 5.
Nice.
And number 4, a sequel to your favorite Christmas movie, A Christmas Story Christmas, which is actually a newer movie that just came out in 2022. They actually made A Christmas Story 2 back in the day. The original Christmas Story came out in the 80s. They made A Christmas Story 2 like in the 90s, early 2000s. Daniel Stern actually played the dad in A Christmas Story 2.
Fascinating.
It's terrible. It's not good. Anyway, so they made a real sequel called A Christmas Story Christmas, where like it's the same cast as the original from the 80s. Like all the kids are grown up and old now. And it's the same house and like the same grandma. And the story revolves around like the old man has died and the brother's got to come back. And it's during the holidays and like what they're supposed to do, and they run into old friends and there's old characters. Anyway, it's actually pretty cool considering it's made like 40 years later. But if you're a fan of A Christmas Story, it's actually pretty good and it's worth checking out. They capture a lot of the magic of the first one. So highly recommend A Christmas Story Christmas.
Love that.
Yeah.
Knew that was going to be on your list.
Yeah, well, it is actually pretty good. At number 3, I had Die Hard 2, also a Christmas movie. I did not, Die Hard 3 would be on this list too because it's a sequel to a Christmas movie, but it's not Christmas related, so I left it off. Die Hard 2, number 3, solid sequel. Again, it's your typical 90s sequel. You basically remade the first movie and you just put it in a different setting, right? Like we went from a building to an airport and we've got more terrorists. So bigger scale, more terrorists. It's, it's the typical 90s sequel. Like if it works, it works. And I like Die Hard 2. I think it's good. That's why I have it at number 3.
Love that.
Number 2, I cheated a little bit on this one, I think, because it's a sequel, but the first 2 movies weren't Christmas related. So I put Christmas Vacation at number 2 because it follows National Lampoon's Vacation and European Vacation. It's technically the 3rd movie in the series, and it's a Christmas movie. Christmas Vacation, I put at number 2. It's great. It's an all-time classic. It's one of those as you probably watch around the holidays. It's one of the ones that kind of needs to be on the list. I think Des is at the age this year where he'll get some of the jokes. I think I want to show it to him. I think he'll laugh at some of it. It is a pretty funny movie. Fun fact that actually when I was looking up Home Alone stuff, Chris Columbus was originally supposed to direct Christmas Vacation. He quit before they started filming because Chevy Chase was such an asshole. And that's why John Hughes offered him Home Alone instead. He's like, well, how about this instead? And he's like, okay, I'll do that. That's a family movie. I like it. Yeah. And Chevy Chase is world renowned for being a huge dickhead. So,
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. You remember that show Community? Remember that show Community he was on?
Yeah.
He got kicked off the show because everybody hated him.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. Chevy Chase is one of the biggest dickheads in Hollywood.
Oh my God. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Shocking.
And number 1, I put Batman Returns. It's a Christmas movie, and
nice.
It's a fantastic movie, and it's a sequel, and it's one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. So that's my number 1.
Love that. Love your list. I love that you put Batman Returns in there at number 1. I have an interesting list because doing Christmas sequels is hard as hell because there's actually not a lot of movies out there. Love that. Love the shades. So I actually have Batman Returns as an honorable mention. I didn't want to put it on my list for a rule that applies to Batman but doesn't apply to another movie. It's a sequel to a not Christmas movie. I do think Batman Returns obviously is a Christmas movie. I've talked about that ad nauseum, but I didn't want to put it on this list because I feel like I've had it at the top of a lot of my Christmas lists. So I'm keeping it out. Okay. Just know that I love Batman Returns, and I do think it's a Christmas movie. I have now my Christmas Batman Returns poster up. Okay. Number 5, I've got Die Hard number 2. For everything that you said, it is a Christmas movie that is a sequel to a Christmas movie. It's big, it's fun, it's everything that you'd want in an action Christmas movie. So we all love us some Bruce Willis. So and then number 4, I had that at my number 5. Number 4 I have, which I'm surprised you didn't have this on your list. I thought you would, but the movie you had in to replace it makes sense too for you because I know you're a Christmas Story person. But I had number 4, I had the Christmas Chronicles 2 from Netflix, which I thought I remember you really liking those movies.
I liked the first one all right. I thought the second one was not very good.
Oh, well, in terms of what was available for Christmas sequels, I had to put this on my list because I'm like, okay, I'd rather watch that than these other ones that I'm finding. So And I put it above Die Hard 2 because it's more Christmassy, obviously, because it's freaking Santa and Mrs. Claus. Fun movie. It's on Netflix. If you haven't watched the Christmas Chronicles 2 movies, go watch them. They're fun.
Kurt Russell's a pretty badass Santa, though. I will give him that.
Yeah, Kurt Russell is fun in the first one, and then obviously the second one we get Kurt and Goldie together. So that's
yeah, I like that. That was kind of neat. That was probably my favorite part.
That duo. So, yeah, that's pretty much the main interest in the entire movie is that Goldie Hawn and Russell are on screen together. So
yeah.
And then what I have for number 3 is the Santa Claus 2. For everything you said, I actually hadn't seen it in a really long time, but recently, last week, just happened to. I was going to put the kids to bed. We had just finished watching the Santa Claus, and the second one just started on its own.
Yeah.
Put the kids down, found myself standing in front of the TV watching the whole movie. Was like, I forgot all about this. It's actually really good. There's a scene where basically, like Howie said earlier, he is trying to find a Mrs. Claus. There is what's called the Santa Claus, or part of the Santa Claus, where you have to have a Mrs. Claus by a certain time, or you lose your powers, your magic, and you can't be Santa anymore. And so he has like 3 days to find a wife. He goes back to the town where his son is in high school and ends up basically trying to fall in love with the principal that his son hates and everybody hates, but she's actually really nice and sweet. It's literally it's like the Santa Claus, if the Santa Claus was a Hallmark Christmas movie. Like the whole love part. So
yeah.
But there's a scene where he is like, he goes to help her chaperone like a faculty dance or faculty night or something, Christmas party. And he ends up using like what's left of his magic to basically give all these faculty members like a Christmas toy that they had always wanted as a kid, basically to like reignite the love for Christmas for all these different people. So it's like really kind of a cool little scene. That's basically why I have this on my list, is because of that. My number 3. And then number 2, this movie is a sequel to 2 other movies that aren't Christmas movies, but it's a integral classic Christmas movie of all Christmas movies. I have National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation at number 2.
Absolutely.
Because deservedly so. That's where it belongs. So, and then some would say at number 1. But for me, we just did a whole episode about this. Obviously, I love it. It's head and shoulders. This is in a whole different galaxy than all these other ones. But Home Alone 2, number 1 Christmas sequel ever made.
I don't know why, but I intentionally like left it off this list because we just did the episode about it. And I don't usually do that, but I just wanted different movies this time. I know you usually do it, so I did it this time. But yeah, I just kind of left it off. But if I had to re-rank them with that on there, it'd be number 3, and everything else would get pushed back a little.
Shocking.
I'd still have Christmas Vacation, Batman in front of it, but
of course. Of course.
All right. Well, because we did a 2 for today, we're running a little long, so we're going to try and get through this next part pretty quick. But another segment of How Rotten Is Your Tomato, Kyle? And
bring it on.
I tried to do as many Christmas movies as I could. So you're getting a full blown onslaught of Christmas or Christmas-like movies. Okay?
Bring it on.
Here we go. We're going to start with some 80s classics. 1983's A Christmas Story, which I know you adore. And
this is just a moment for you to I'm already going to say it's higher than whatever you're going to give me.
In 1989,
National
Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Oh, I'm going to say A Christmas Story, undeservedly so, is higher. I'm going to give it an 80 because I think critics love it. It's played on repeat for the entire month of December every single year. Barf. But I'm going to say Christmas Story is higher. National Lampoon's is lower at a 78.
You are correct that A Christmas Story is higher at an 89%.
What? Get out of here!
Yeah, you're
I
the one
knew
that's
you were good.
wrong.
You
Wrong.
always take these opportunities to highlight the things that you're proud of,
Right.
and
Christmas
smite me.
Christmas Vacation, I think, is a little bit low at a 71.
Oh, yikes!
Yeah, right? I know. Right?
Well, I
All
guess
right.
people watch A Christmas Story more than they do that. So
That's true. Anyway, all right. Since you like that one so much, we're gonna do some sequels. 2022's A Christmas Story Christmas,
I did see that, actually, believe it or not.
and 2002's Santa Claus Part 2. Two movies we just had on our lists.
Are you just? I'm not. I don't even have to think about this. Obviously, it's A Christmas Story Christmas. That's going to be higher because you're going to do anything you can to talk up your movies. The Santa Claus, I'm going to say that is, I think actually people thought it was pretty good. I'm going to put that at an 81. And then I'm going to put the Santa Claus 2 at an 80. That's high, at a 77.
A Christmas Story Christmas is higher. And you were close. It's a 79. You were close.
I fucking knew it. I
81
knew it.
79. And a Santa Claus 2 is a 55.
Oh, that's probably
accurate.
Right.
Yeah, it's probably accurate. All right.
So,
all right, I got some trickeration for you. Are you ready?
Yep.
We're going to do a flashback. 1946's
Oh my God.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh,
versus
classic.
1947's Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, you know what's sad is I think critics think Miracle on 4th Street was a better movie, but It's a Wonderful Life was by far higher. Should be. At the time, that's an 82. Miracle on 34th Street, 79. I'm really living in that 80, 70.
You really are. You really
numbers today.
It's a Wonderful Life is lower.
Oh, get out of here.
At a 94.
Holy shit.
Miracle on 34th Street is a 96.
That is bananas. Would you want to watch that movie?
Well, here's the thing, is I tried to think of movies that were like 80 years old that people still talk about. And I was like, I'm going to look these two up. First off, I didn't realize they only came out a year apart. And they were, 1946 and 1947. And they were that close together as well received.
That is actually shocking. I did not know that.
Did you know that the actor that played Santa Claus in A Miracle on 34th Street actually won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor?
For Santa Claus? That's shocking.
It's
shock and awe.
Amazing.
James Stewart should have won for freaking old Jimmy. Jimmy should have been winning freaking awards for that It's a Wonderful Life. I don't think that he did or would, but he should have.
All right. Are you ready? We got two more sets and then we're done. All right. So these are your movies that aren't necessarily Christmas movies, but Christmas happens in them. So we refer to them as Christmas movies, right? We had this conversation. Our first pairing, 2001's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Oh, nice.
And 2005's Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I picked those two because I think they emphasize Christmas more than any of the other Harry Potter movies. Because
I would agree.
In the first one, we have the part where Harry's left behind with Ron and they get the sweaters and then he gets the cloak and he has the scene with the mirror. And Goblet of Fire obviously has the Yule Ball during the contest.
Which Omaha for a while had their own Yule Ball that we actually went to. It was actually really cool. A little Harry Potter themed Christmas fancy party. Obviously the Goblet of Fire is way higher. That was like in the movie franchises where like everything changed with that movie. It got more edgy. It got more serious. The stakes got high.
Over the original, Kyle?
I think the original is probably the most watched, but that's primarily because people always want to start. They want to start from the beginning. But yeah, the first one is more magical and whimsical, as
because they're 11.
I've said once. I've said that once. I've called Harry Potter and the magic from it very whimsical. And
the movies age like people do. I mean, they really do.
Yeah,
No, they do.
It's true. For whatever reason, that I remember distinctly seeing a Goblet of Fire in theaters, like at a midnight release, and like it was just cool, and it felt Christmassy, but there was kind of creepy, scary moments. Goblet of Fire, much higher, at an 88, and the Sorcerer's Stone, I'm going to give an 87. I'm going to say they're close.
Kyle, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is higher, and you nailed it at 88.
Let's 88. Fucking go.
Sorcerer's Stone is an 80, 80.
Oh,
so
shoot. Look at that. Let's
nicely done. Well done, Kyle.
I did not know that. That was a guess.
All right. Last one. Last set. Are you ready?
Bring it on.
1992's Batman Returns versus 1987's Lethal Weapon.
Oh. This is a trick question, which is bullshit. Another moment for you to poke one of my favorite movies and highlight and pedestal one of yours. If it were me, Batman Returns would be much higher at a 94. But because I know you're setting this up, Lethal Weapon is higher based on critics, and I believe overall it just made a ass load of money. Lethal Weapon is going to be higher at an 84. Batman Returns lower at an 81, even though it should be a 94. Give it to me.
Batman Returns is higher.
Let's go. Much deserved.
At an 82.
Oh, what'd I say, 84?
I said 81.
82. Oh,
and Lethal Weapon is an 80. So you're close on both.
Oh, those are both pretty close.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, I like that the critics liked Batman that much.
But still, 82 is too low, but whatever.
I agree with that completely.
Anyway, that was good. You did good. You had a good round. Well played. Goblet of Fire, right on the head. 88. I was actually having this discussion when we rewatched them with the kids. Dez's first viewing. Reagan asked me which my favorite Harry Potter was, and I said it was always Goblet of Fire until the last one came out.
Dude, yes. The last one was really good.
It's such a badass movie. Like it is nuts. But Goblet of Fire is
way different than the first movie. Way different.
Oh my gosh, way different. But anyway, if you're watching us on YouTube, please make sure you click the bell so you get notifications on when new episodes come out. Hopefully you're already subscribed. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find us on many podcast networks such as Apple, Spotify, Audible, iHeartRadio, among many others. You can also see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Long episode. Thanks everybody for bearing with us as we went through two movies, Home Alone and Home Alone 2. We're back next week, not with a Christmas movie. We're going to take a little break because we're going to do the big premiere movie of the week, episode 70 of the Movie Dads podcast, Kraven the Hunter. So we can either say, wow, they actually made a badass R-rated Sony Universe villain movie, or we can say, once again, Sony has failed us all and made a shitty Spider-Man villain movie with no Spider-Man. I'm leaning towards it's probably going to be the latter, but I'm hoping it's actually entertaining and it's violent. It's expected to do dog shit at the box office because nobody cares, and they're over Sony's crappy movies. So we'll see what happens. And it's opening up against the new Lord of the Rings animated movie this weekend as well. So I'm probably going to try and see both. But
do we want to do that? The War for Rohirrim?
We're doing Kraven because Kraven's a bigger release. It's going to be more accessible for us to see for sure this weekend.
I think that Lord of the Rings ended up being a much better movie. Just throwing that out there.
No, we'll see. We're going to find out. But that'll be next week. And then we're going to wrap up this holiday season the following week. At episode 71, we're going to do the Netflix original absolute masterpiece, Klaus, for our last Christmas movie of the season. That'll be in 2 weeks. But Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.